Hey everybody, Dr. Jason Piken again, and what we're going to be talking about right now is the first part of your burping, belching, acid reflux, GERD, whatever you want to call it, problems with the upper digestive tract. And what we're not going to be doing is treating the symptoms of GERD and acid reflux. We're going to be treating you. We're going to be making you healthier, and healthier people have a lot less problems. So the first thing we have to understand is why people have these problems in the first place. So I'm going to start with this video is going to address the chemistry aspect of why people have these upper digestive issues. So to start off the chemistry aspect, we're going to start with something partly mechanical, which is chewing. I can't tell you how many people over the years that I've just gotten to chew a little bit better, and it's helped their digestive system. I got to tell you, if you're not chewing, you're not digesting properly. The interaction with your food and your saliva is the first part of digestion. There are digestive enzymes that are actually in your saliva that help you to break down your food. So I'm going to just say this. Please chew your food and get it to the point where it's as liquefied as you can deal with. The quality of our foods affect how we're going to feel. So if you're eating French fries and 3 hamburgers and shoveling down pizza all day, tons of Chinese food, tons of greasy things, well, your body's probably not going to like it. And the rejection of unhealthy foods by you getting a symptom of burping, belching, or reflux, I'm sorry to say, is healthy. If you're putting crap in your body and your body's making you feel like crap, well then great. Your body is doing a great job and it's letting you know exactly what it likes and doesn't like. You can wind up with some nutrient insufficiencies or plain old deficiencies. The two most important that I'm going to be talking about right now are vitamin B12 and zinc. The reason why I'm going to discuss vitamin B12 and zinc is because those are nutrients that are necessary for preparing the stomach to create acid. And we need acid in our stomach. Our stomach has this hydrochloric acid, which is an extremely acidic compound, so that when you break down or swallow your foods into your stomach, it will be broken down for you by this acid. It's part of the digestive process. And plenty of studies have shown no matter what your diet is like, as we go on in decades of life, as we get older, we just tend to produce less of this acid in the first place. So that's why we have to be more careful about what we eat as we get older, and we got to make sure we're learning certain principles here. So the first one is you can start taking B12 and see if it helps. The best is to get a blood test and find out if you're low in B12. And if you are, what I recommend is methylcobalamin. Cobalamin is B12 itself. That's the name of it. And there are different types of cobalamin. The best one I'm going to recommend is methylcobalamin. Also, zinc. Zinc is found in animal products. It's found in meats, it's found in organ meats, it's found in certain nuts and seeds. And so all I recommend is at least that you're having nuts and seeds, because even the vegetarians and vegans will eat those if you're comfortable with it. With B12, it's something that if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, you might need to take supplementally, because vitamin B12 is only found in animal products. With the vitamin B12, the dosage is really dependent on your labs and how much you need. But plenty of supplements out there, and what I'd say is experiment with taking one and see if it makes you feel better, and getting blood tests to see if you're not overdosing on B12. So with zinc, little more difficult. I don't think the zinc blood test is as reliable, and what you want to go by is if you take too much zinc, I tend to see people getting very physically uncomfortable. Best type of zinc I'm going to recommend for people with upper digestive problems is zinc carnosine. Zinc attached to an amino acid called L-carnitine. When you attach the zinc to the L-carnitine, it creates a new compound that's really great for people with reflux. It normalizes stomach acidity, helping to normalize the levels and not have too much or too little. It calms and soothes and heals the stomach lining, and it's been shown in plenty of studies to relieve a lot of the symptoms of people with acid and or non-acid reflux. So what you want us to understand is, from this diagram, is that this thumb is your esophagus and this down here would be your stomach. They're separated via sphincter. That sphincter is like a hole that closes up most of the time when the stomach releases acid up into the esophagus and causes it to squeeze like a muscle. If that sphincter never receives the stimulation of the acid, or very seldomly receives that stimulation of the acid, well, then it stays open. And food, yes, can pass through and get into the stomach, but it means it can also reflux back and go back up into the esophagus, which makes you feel really uncomfortable. If that continues over long periods of time, it can even develop something called a Barrett's esophagus. Some of you have maybe been to GI doctors, I hope at least for a screening. Whether you have Barrett's or not, we want to normalize the stomach acid. And well, let's take a little backtrack. What's the most common treatment for people that have reflux? Well, it's PPIs, or acid reducers. So now can you see that if you have low stomach acid and you put in an acid reducer, how that can screw things up in the long run? Yes, you don't feel the symptoms of acid reflux anymore. I believe those meds really do work a great deal of the time, at least 30 to 50% of the time, depending on what studies you read. But very often these people that take these proton pump inhibitors or acid reducers still feel recurring symptoms, or they don't get any relief at all. That's because there's something called non-acid betaine hydrochloride, the natural hydrochloric acid that winds up in our stomach anyway. Now, I don't want you jumping out and buying a hydrochloric acid supplement because it may be irritating, especially if you have irritations of the esophagus or an ulcer. So here are some tests that you can do to see if you can tolerate hydrochloric acid supplements. The first, start off with lemon juice. Just squeeze a half of a lemon into an ounce or two of water, drink it down, and see if it burns you at all. If it's tolerable, then move on to the next stage, which is going to be apple cider vinegar. A tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, put it again in about 2 ounces of water, and then drink it down. You can sip it, you don't have to shoot it down, but you want to sip it and see if it irritates your stomach. If you're getting a high amount of irritation from either the lemon or the apple cider vinegar, maybe the betaine hydrochloride supplements are a little too much for you at first, and you need to build up. The way I recommend people take hydrochloric acid, or the hydrochloric acid supplements, is about 10 to 15 minutes before a meal. What this does is it primes the stomach with the proper acidity so you can break down your foods properly. And over time, if you're getting enough B12 and zinc and you're following the stress reducing protocols and the physical protocols we'll talk about later, and you're chewing your food, well, then you may be able to reproduce that natural stomach acid on your own and wean off of the betaine hydrochloride. There are plenty other digestive enzymes that really help. You can use a digestive enzyme without the betaine hydrochloride in it, or maybe a micro amount, just to get things started. There are so many digestive enzymes out there. Personally, in my office, I have 5 different digestive enzyme blends that I use with people, and we sometimes experiment with them. Sometimes it's just based upon what foods they're sensitive to and what not. Sometimes it's based upon manual muscle testing. I am an applied kinesiologist. If you want to know more about that, it's going to be in more videos. But we can get this biofeedback from people about which enzymes may work for them best or not. But it may just take for you at home some experimentation, looking for different blends and just trying them. Just because 1 or 2 didn't work doesn't mean that they're not going to work for you. It just means that you may not have found the right blend. I recommend people take the recommended dosage, depending on the label of the bottle that you're using, about an hour before a meal. That's what I do before I'm going out to a restaurant, just because I'm not sure of the quality of food I'm going to be exposed to. So I take 2 digestive enzymes before going out. If I forget, you can always, or if a patient forgets, you can always take the digestive enzymes along with your meal. If you realize you're about to eat something bad or you're starting to feel bloated right away, take them then. You can even take them an hour or 2 or 30 minutes after a meal. It's really easy. It's very hard to screw up using digestive enzymes because it's very hard for them to harm you unless you're taking way too many of them. And the worst thing that you're going to feel is minor stomach upset for a temporary period of time. A probiotic is a good, friendly bacteria that resides in and on our body. There are literally 600 to 700 different strains of these bugs that live in and on our body. If you knew all about them, it would just, well, if you want to learn all about them, it'll take us hours upon hours. So what I like to use are blends of 2 to 3 strains maximum, and at a higher dosage of each of those strains. That way, if you're feeling better, you're sure about what's helping you. And if you're not feeling good, you know exactly what you can stay away from. Right now, I use 2 companies. One, the Metagenics line of probiotics, and also the Apex Energetics line of probiotics. So both of those are good places to start. So once you start and find a probiotic that helps you, stick with it for 3 or 4 months, but make sure you do some experimenting and change the strains every 3 to 4 months. Heck, with patients, sometimes I change the strain every single bottle just to make sure they're getting exposed to lots of good friendly bacteria. If you don't like taking pills, you can eat kimchi. You can eat sauerkraut. There are patients that I've had from Asia that have fermented fish. Any type of fermented food, even like pickles or sour pickles, not the vinegar pickles, are probiotic rich, and that means they have good friendly bacteria in them. The next thing is food sensitivities. Well, maybe you're eating a pretty good diet, maybe you're not eating junk, but you're eating a food that still is a problem for your digestive tract. Well, what you want to try here is experimenting with autoimmune paleo program, or a paleo program, or at least a food rotation diet. You can look these things up on the internet. AI Paleo is one of my favorite to start with because it's the most comprehensive. You're going to find out what works and what doesn't work quicker than any other program, according to my past experience in the last number of years. There are pluses and minuses to all these food programs, and that's why we individualize treatment with each individual program person in our office. Now let's talk about supplements that can heal you, because we talked about the B12, methylcobalamin, and zinc carnosine. Those are great ones, but there are also nutrients that heal and soothe the stomach and the stomach lining. The first one we'll talk about is aloe. I love aloe. It's soothing and healing for the gut. Licorice is also another great one. You want to just make sure you're getting a DGL, a deglycerized licorice. What that takes into effect is there's an ingredient in the licorice, the glyceriza, that can have an effect on people with high blood pressure. So L-glutamine is another great supplement. It's an amino acid that is soothing and healing for the gut, and it promotes muscle growth, which is something just about all of us need anyway. With the L-glutamine, I have a dosage for it. I love people taking between 3 and 5 grams a day. It usually comes in a powder. I'm sure you can find it in a pill out there, but 3 to 5 grams of L-glutamine powder just mixed in water and sip throughout the day, or you can put it into your smoothie or a shake that you're having and just get that in. 3 to 5 grams, 1 to 2 times a day. You can go on the higher doses if you've tried it and tolerated it and haven't felt better. So we've had aloe, licorice, L-glutamine, methylcobalamin, B12, zinc carnosine, and that's a great place to start adding in your digestive enzymes and your probiotics. I really think that's a fantastic place to start with the chemistry of acid reflux. Again, it's always best to understand what's going on inside your body, so if you haven't seen a medical professional first to get a diagnosis and to find out what's really wrong, start there. But if you've tried everything, or you just want to experiment with making yourself healthy in a more natural way, these are great places to start. Just don't let the experiment go too long without seeking some type of treatment if you're not getting better. So I hope all that info helps. See you on the next video, which is going to be emotional stresses.